Welcome back to the Race Metal series. Today, we're tackling this question. Is gravel suspension really worth it? To find out, we're testing one of the latest releases on the market, the Cane Creek Invert Gravel Fork. I also recruited the help of Radavist contributor and suspension expert, Travis Engel. The Invert comes in two versions. We have the climb switch model with 40 millimeters of travel, and then we got the super light version, and it has 30 millimeters of travel. I got my hands on the climb switch model. So let's get it mounted and hit some New Mexican gravel.
What do we have here? I feel silly talking to myself, but that's most of my job, Bailey, nowadays. This is the Invert SL, so it doesn't have a lockout. Is the lightest one? I think it's like 900 grams. We're gonna put this suspension gravel fork in the beach club and go do Town to Towers again and see if it's worth it. Gravel suspension.
Ooh. What do you think? First impressions, it is very light for a suspension fork. One thing I'm very impressed by is full carbon steer tube. I mean, you don't see that very often on any suspension forks outside of like RockShox had some of their World Cup forks set up like this, but like full carbon steer tube, that definitely keeps the weight down. Also gives a nice sleek look. My personal feeling is once you get to the point of wanting a suspension fork on your gravel bike, you probably just want to be on a different bike. But it's all different for every person and the particular route and the particular pursuit. So I can certainly see times wherein this is beneficial. Folks who just want to have the ultimate comfort, as we have seen the rise of suspension stems and that sort of thing coming in. Big thing that I like about this is when your suspension moves, it's just moving your wheel here rather than with the suspension stems that are on an angle and a pivot, so the stem will actually drop under hard braking, corners, hard hits, that kind of thing. That's the thing that I've personally never liked about suspension stems, is that you can actually feel them move a little bit there, whereas this, it's still keeping your handlebars, your hoods, everything in plane as it moves. So I would imagine it's a much more confidence-inspiring feeling than you would get out of a suspension stem.
I was able to conduct 3 tests with the Invert Fork, and here are the results.
Second day of trying the Invert Fork. I have taken the same trail. This will be my third time. First with a regular gravel bike to see how it felt. The second time, the first time with the fork, and it was not great. It was very squishy. I bottomed it out a bunch of times, and then I realized it was not set up for my weight. It had like 70 psi, which was not even close. So I set it up for my weight. It says 95% of your weight, 170 psi right now. So yeah, I'm just gonna see how I feel today and report back. Okay, just made it out of that section, and there's 3 ways to look at the scientific testing that I've been doing. I did it on a gravel bike, a regular gravel bike, a rigid gravel bike. I don't know if I can believe I'm saying that. And it was fine. I had big 48 millimeter tires on it, and totally doable. It's fine. Yeah, it's not some areas that were not great, right? Then I did it with the fork, which was not set up correctly, so it was at very low PSI, which at the end, good for testing. And what I noticed was it was it would sink a lot, obviously, because it wasn't set up correctly, but the chatter was very smooth. Like I had no arm pump at all. I got it here and I was super fresh in my upper body. And today I did it with the recommended pressure, 95% of my weight. And it did a great job at taking the big drops, the big rocks, the big bumps. And it gave me confidence to, like, you know, pick up a line that I would usually not pick. And it felt great. It was like, oh man, this is cool. But then again, I think this fork is supposed to help with fatigue for people that don't want to feel that vibration as much, or ultra endurance athletes or ultra endurance racers, riders that want to manage the fatigue through a long periods of time. And at the recommended PSI, it's just not doing that. I was feeling the vibrations a lot. And right now my hands, I have a little arm pump, and it's not doing that specific thing. It was great with bumps. It was great with little drops. It was great with confidence. But then the fatigue aspect, it was just not there. When there were spots where there were like little rocks or surface that was very uneven, I was just receiving all of it. I guess trial and error. I would recommend setting it up at the recommended, ride it, take it to some washboard or something, and then if like me, you think it's too much, just start taking. I'm gonna set it up maybe at 85, maybe 80% my weight. Ride it again, see what it feels like. Because I think that's what this fork is about. I think it's what this fork is trying to accomplish. It's a lightweight fork for a suspension fork compared to the competition, and they want gravel racers to use them. That's why they have an SL version too. I really like the lookout though. Whenever I hit pavement and I want to stand on the pedals, it does feels like it helps quite a bit. But yeah, gravel racers that, you know, all gravel races nowadays are 100 plus miles, so your body's gonna take a lot of hit, a lot of fatigue, and if you feel like it's too much, you know, you should definitely consider it. Compared to a suspension stem, suspension seat post, I think this covers that aspect way better. That's a power meter panel.
Oh, I see.
Okay, that
160.
appreciate you, man. How about to do Old Buckman Road? We takes you all the way to Diablo Canyon. This is probably one of the most hated gravel roads in Santa Fe for cyclists. It's just a lot of washboard. Just washboard everywhere, and yeah, just like really, really not enjoyable at all. So yeah, it's be a good test for this fork right here. See how it does. Any other bike, any other gravel bike, riding it through here, I would have turned around the first, I don't know, minute of it. It's just like, I would be dead by now. My hands feel okay. My arms feel okay. I think I have it dialed in now. You can ride Old Buckman Road with this fork, which we avoid this at all costs. We avoid the Old Buckman Road on bikes at all costs. It's just awful. All right, see you guys out there. I'm gonna head back and see where else I can ride this fork. All right.
So, is gravel suspension really necessary? To further my understanding of this question, I spoke with Travis Engel from the Radavist. He's a suspension mogul, and he gave me a crash course on suspension for off-road riding.
If you could tell us, the audience, like who you are and what you do, that would be awesome too. I could put it right there in the intro.
Travis Engel. Have just been in various levels of the bike industry for past 20 years or so, and now I just kind of write about whatever I want to, whether it's a product or some controversial opinion of mine. I started in a bike shop, and I really enjoyed talking to people and educating them. So I really liked this part. So yeah, I'm glad you asked me. Thanks, Miguel. So the thing that I've been like waiting to talk about is the fact that fork is undamped. That kind of blows my mind that they went that way, because damping it's important in ways that a lot of people don't understand. The way most of us experience damping on a fork is the red knob that keeps it from being a pogo stick. You know when it's too fast, you know when it's too slow, and you just dial it so it's just right. So like the fork isn't like springing you back, and it's not like sucking back up really slow. Like you just like, oh, this feels right.
So for someone that doesn't understand damping systems as much, so is this fork dependent 100% on the configuration of the spring?
You can picture this whole assembly is a piston on the end of a rod that is getting pushed through oil. And so the oil is flowing through it. When you are compressing a fork, imagine the oil flowing upward through that drawing. On the left, there is a valve that is closed off with a spring. So that is, oil can't go through there. On the right, there is a valve that's closed off with an adjustable cone. So, and this is all just like abstract. It's not actually what it looks like in there. But when you push down the forks slowly, oil flows around either side of that cone.
So you're adjusting the flow?
Yes, that is the low speed compression damping adjustment.
Oh.
And a lot of forks have a little blue knob. It's not a lockout.
Yeah.
All you do when you turn that blue knob, it opens, it widens and narrows those paths.
So if it's flowing faster up, what does that mean?
So that's a good question. It would be going slow if you're pedaling, or if you're like going down something steep and you have more weight on the front end. Like that is a slow speed load on the fork. But when you hit a bump, that's when it's going fast. Somebody might want that right cone adjustment to be slow if they're heavy, if they are riding steep terrain a lot, if they like to pump around turns and stuff. Those are slow compression.
Meaning it will be, the cone will be less flow. It will be closer.
Yeah, it'll be closer. Yeah.
That's for someone that's more aggressive or here. Okay.
Yeah. And like if you lock it out, that totally closes it off and it prevents oil from flowing at all.
Is that what lockouts do?
Yeah. The thing on the left side, that's the high speed compression valve or high speed circuit. If you push hard enough, that the oil there's not enough room on the cone on the right to let the oil through. Like it's all trying to get in there really fast. If you hit something fast enough that the oil just can't make it through there, that spring is the high speed damper. So that will open up because the valve on the right's just not wide enough to handle all the oil that needs to get through there in that moment. The fact that a damper can react differently depending on the speed of the compression will allow a fork to be supportive, to offer you some support for pedaling, for pumping, but also move out of the way if you hit something. And then some forks have independently adjustable high and low speed compression. Usually you treat that high speed valve as kind of just a blow off, like it's just to shave off the spikes of impact. But really high tech forks, like really aggressive riders, what a downhill racer considers a hard hit is different from what I consider a hard hit. Like they need a lot of support in that high speed. That's why they'll have independent. But I'm getting further away from what is going to be helpful for you.
Well, Yes and no. This is a good opportunity to specify how this system, this adjustability, could be beneficial for a fork in this area, right?
Yeah.
So I think I understood it. You did a great job at explaining it, because that is 100% something that I do not know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that this fork does not have that, this
No.
invert. Okay.
No. So it just was a way to save weight. And it's weird. We're kind of the blind leading the blind here, because you haven't ridden a damped gravel fork. I haven't ridden an undamped gravel fork. So, the advantage of that, the damper best of both worlds thing, is that you can have some support from that low speed compression. It's like you don't have to have a super high pressure spring to keep you supported, because adding a lot of preload, adding a lot of pressure to that spring, it doesn't care if it's a slow impact or a fast impact. It's going to be harsher. If all you have is an air spring.
So I think that's exactly the point what I was encountering. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I put it at the recommended, it was reacting one way,
Mm-hmm.
very one-dimensional. It was taking the bumps really well, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
taking the small chatter nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if I go way too low, it takes the chatter really nicely, but it doesn't know how to take the big
Yep.
bumps.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the damper could come in
Mm-hmm.
and dial both of them easier. Because right now I'm like right in the middle, where I think he's taking the shatter well enough, but I don't think he's taking the mistakes really well, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, that's where a damper could come in and fix that.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
And then coming to invert designs, is there any benefits?
Yes. And it makes a lot of sense for the gravel application. The benefit of it is there is less unsprung weight. So when you picture a regular fork, every time you hit a bump, those outer legs and the arch that connects them, all of that has to move. Whereas when you have an inverted fork, the wheel weight is going to be the same. The chassis that has to move along with the wheel is lighter. The suspension is going to be more sensitive. That's especially important when you only have 40 millimeters to work with. Like on mountain bike suspension, they talk about small bump. Like a coil, like a metal coil sprung shock has better small bump, because there's less preventing it from getting that initial bump, whereas an air shock has all of these seals and all this pressure and all this friction. Removing unsprung weight gives you better small bump. I'm surprised that we don't see more of it. When it comes to weight, there's this whole other argument, because you have to beef up certain parts of it. It allows those, like on a traditional mountain bike fork, it's connected up here and it's connected down there. But with inverted, like the legs can do that more easily.
Oh.
So that's the disadvantage to an inverted fork, and it's why I don't see it that often in mountain biking. Because the aggressive riding, the front wheel can twist independent of the fork too easily. So I do think that is an advantage.
So it is an advantage for gravel, because we're talking about it's more sensitive, and it's more sensitive to that small shatter that could create fatigue in your hands. But
the inverted is nice.
When we're talking small 40, 30 millimeter travels,
the terrain that is going to be surrounding the front wheel isn't deep enough to like force it offline.
Okay. Do you think gravel suspension is necessary or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of opinions about the word necessary.
But you think it's here to stay?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think
that's great, because I feel like this is you ask this. I've seen this question being asked online to a lot of people, and everybody's, it depends. I like straight answers to this.
I say this a lot. I come at everything from a mountain biker perspective, but I think about gravel, where mountain biking, like when it became popular in the US in like the early and mid 90s, there was downhill, but what most people saw was cross-country racing. If you looked at a bike catalog, a lot of companies didn't even have a downhill bike, so they just had their mountain bike range, and they went from cheap to expensive. And the expensive ones were the lightest, fastest, narrowest tire, longest stem, narrowest handlebar. They were race bikes. That was the best mountain bike. was the one that was best for cross country racing. Flash forward 30 years, and mountain biking is there's all these different kinds of mountain bikes. There's cross country race bikes, there's trail bikes, there's enduro bikes, and I think the same thing is going to happen with gravel. It's not going to be one thing. So this is the answer that you're getting. This is the it depends answer.
Yeah.
Going to follow the same thing that mountain biking did. That sector, that racing, the equivalent to the cross country racer that used to be the only thing a mountain bike could be, I think that's going to get smaller and smaller. And these more endurance, more versatile, more likely to be suspended gravel bikes are going to get more and more popular. And I think suspension will come with that.
As Travis mentioned, gravel, it's spending, just like mountain bike did back in the day. And the benefits of an invert design are very apparent for gravel riding. The only thing that this fork might need to be the perfect gravel suspension fork is the adjustability of a damper. Thanks for watching the Race Metal series by the Radavist. If you like this content, please subscribe and thumbs up the video. See you guys in the next one.